Hi, welcome to Tea and Talk. I'm your host, Olivia Boughton. Today, I'm joined by Stan Blicharz. Stan, thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure.
Well, I'm so excited to talk to you because I know you have some West Rutland history. But before we get into that, we'll talk tea.
Wonderful.
So the tea set that we have out today is kind of a mixture of different things. The teapot itself is actually from Poland. It's a nice piece of Polish pottery, which is very characteristically kind of colorful and has intricate designs. So this is a nice example of that and was a Christmas gift to me from my husband. So thank you to Jim for that lovely teapot, which is getting its first run today. And our creamer and sugar bowl and the teacups are actually not mine. They are here as a visitation from your Chucha Dorothy of Brookside. So, and for those of you who don't speak Polish, Chucha means aunt. So Stan's Aunt Dorothy, who will be 101 in just a few weeks here, she loaned me these lovely teacups and the creamer and sugar, and her niece Judy helped me pack it all up, so thanks to Judy as well. And you told me, I like to serve things that I think my guests will like, but you told me you're not much of a tea drinker.
I have not been, but I'm hoping to enjoy it today.
So I know you like coffee, so I decided to choose a tea that's fairly robust. Okay. So despite the fact that we have, you know, a Polish teapot and items from your Polish aunt, I am serving Irish breakfast tea, which is a rather strong, bold flavored tea, and that's in part because it's a black tea blend, but there's a lot of Assam in the blend, so it adds this kind of more bold, heavy, kind of almost pungent flavor. I love Irish breakfast tea in the morning, so it is definitely one that I enjoy drinking. So that's what I've brewed for us to try today.
Very good, thank you.
So I'm gonna pour us each a little cup of tea.
Yep.
Let's see, and this has this nice little extra
handle
that? Almost. No, that's okay, I think I got it. Let's see.
Ooh, that looks wonderful.
There we go, and a little for me. And I do have some milk and sugar here if you prefer either.
I would like a drop of the sugar, please.
Okay, I have cubes. So one or two, or
one is fine.
Okay, or three or four.
You. No,
you
one is perfect.
That. All right, I'm gonna do two for myself today. All right, and I'm gonna grab this creamer over here for myself as well. Okay, stir it up in there.
Na zdrowie.
Oh, na zdrowie. Cheers.
Very nice.
All right, found something that's bold enough for a coffee drinker.
Perfect.
Great. So Stan, let's hear a little bit about you. Where did you grow up and what was that like?
Well, my first few years were spent in Center Rutland. And my grandfather and father built the two houses that are just next to the overpass there. If you're coming toward West Rutland, they're the two houses just before the overpass.
Now, there was a store in one of them at one point. Was that
My grandfather had a meat market there.
Okay.
And he was a generous fellow, and in fact, it was very difficult for him to keep the business going because many people didn't have the money to pay and would buy on credit and then have a difficult time to paying their bill.
Right.
And so eventually he stopped the store.
Yeah.
And from there, my Aunt Sophie, who was the oldest daughter, started a beauty salon in the front of the house.
Right.
And so being right there on the main road, that was a good spot for her business. And then my grandfather went over to the Staso slate quarry in Castleton.
Okay.
And he was a foreman there on one of the shifts. So my dad and a couple of other brothers of his also worked for Staso.
Okay.
And after the GI Bill was passed, my dad decided he wanted to be a plumber. So he went back to school.
Yeah.
And that was his career for the rest of his life as I grew up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first few years were in Center Rutland, and then my parents bought a home on Smith Street across from the Clifford Funeral Home.
Yep. In West Rutland.
Yes, it was Mullen Funeral Home at that time.
Oh, yes, that's right.
And so once we moved there, my dad made sure that the grounds were immaculate because being across from the funeral home, with so many people coming for wakes and whatnot.
That's true.
Our home had to be a showpiece.
So were you part of keeping it a showpiece?
Absolutely. We were required to mow the lawn, and we trimmed along the sidewalks, you know.
Yep.
I don't think many people do that anymore, but
probably not.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it was pristine. Same with, you know, the paint on the house and all of that. So yes, we lived just around the corner from the church, so I spent a lot of time there as an altar boy growing up. My earliest recollection of West Rutland was it was a great town to grow up in.
Yeah.
Wonderful community.
Yeah.
And many of the men worked for the Vermont Marble and Green Mountain Marble companies.
Yep.
They didn't make a lot of money, and many of them lived in company houses. Yep. But I can remember watching a parade of automobiles coming from the Whipple Hollow area, way down off Marble Street, and the dust was filling the air from the lime plant where a lot of these fellows worked, and of course their cars were full of lime dust. And so they would come into Marble Street, and you know, it was fun to watch this group of guys. I mean, there were probably 40, 50 cars would come up through. So that was an early memory of seeing that dust rising up in the air like that. And then, when I was 9, the town decided that they were going to sponsor a Little League program.
Okay.
And in the probably early May of 1958, I believe it was, they held a tryout, and 60 boys came. 60 boys to Hinchy Field.
That's a lot.
It was quite a group, and there were probably 30 or 40 other boys from age 9 to 13 that could have come, but for some reason didn't.
Yeah.
So we ended up with six teams, and 10 boys on a team, obviously. So in order to collect money for uniforms and such, we canvassed the town. We were each given a section of the town to ask for donations. And the Rotary Club sponsored the bulk of the funding, you know, for equipment and so forth.
Sure.
But the townspeople helped out, and it was wonderful to have, you know, this Little League program happen throughout the summer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we played 12 games or something like that. Sunday nights, Tuesdays, and Thursdays were the game nights.
Yeah. Did you do that for several years?
I did. 9 through, well, I turned 14 in the middle of the summer, so I could still play that summer, even though I was. So probably, 4 years? Yeah, it was 4. But a fun time. And the fellows that coached were volunteers.
Yeah.
Well-respected gentlemen in town. And that's one of the reasons that I like to give back to the community, is because of, you know, what these men did for us.
Yeah. Did you have a favorite coach or someone that really stuck out?
Oh, yes. My first coach was Mr. John Rogers, And his next door neighbor was Dickie Bartlett. Dickie had just graduated from college, or maybe was even attending Castleton at the time. Yeah. And the two of them had a team. And then my last year, I played for Frank Bruno.
Oh,
yes. And he
Yeah.
was a hero to me. Yeah, he was very, very good to me. And as it so happened, I coached his grandson later on when he was at Rutland Town School.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Isn't
So
that
we
funny?
went full circle.
Yeah, how those things happen.
It was great.
You know?
It was great. Yeah. So another fond memory I have of being in West Rutland was our Boy Scout troop. Troop 29 belonged to St. Stanislaus Parish.
Okay.
And at one point in time, we were 29 boys.
Wow, that's
29 boys. It was
a good
excellent
size
group.
Yeah.
There were youngsters who were what we called tenderfoot, if that was the first rank.
Okay.
And then all the way up to explorers. And when we were an explorer, you were either a star or a life scout.
Okay.
At the time. So some of our activities, we sold Christmas trees. Yes, during the Christmas season, and that helped us fund the boys to go to Camp Sunrise in the summer. And our scoutmaster, Henry Kontorski, was outstanding leader. He was very aggressive in making sure that every boy would have the chance to go to camp without having parents pay for it.
That's great.
And so he had access to different areas in Shrewsbury and Killington and different places where we could get balsam trees. And so on a Saturday and Sunday, end of November and early December, 3 weekends, we would cut the trees and then sell them in town.
Wow.
And had pretty much would sell out every year. It was great.
That's great. I'm sure the community loved helping.
It was,
the
and
scouts.
everybody came. We would sell in the evening. So instead of doing my homework,
convenient excuse.
Yes,
right?
I would go over to Mr. Kontorski's house and help with showing trees to prospective customers.
Oh.
And we did very well, and it was so great to have anybody who wanted to go to camp in the summer had that chance.
Yeah.
It was great.
That's great.
Wonderful time.
That's great.
Wonderful time.
So it sounds like, when you were young, you had a lot of really positive role models in different areas of your life. And I know you went on to education yourself. So was that an inspiration for you, or was there some moment that you felt like, I know I want to...
Well, yes, and in fact, during growing up those years, I would admire the young fellas and girls too, who were involved with the West Rutland Recreation Program in the summer.
Okay.
And so I kept saying to myself, man, I think that would be something I would like to do. So my senior year in high school, I decided that I would apply for that job, and I got it. And so teaching young children how to swim was sort of a motivator for me that, okay, this looks like the career I'd like to pursue, to teach children.
Wow.
And so I did. I was a director for 3 summers, and of course got to know all the kids. They would come to the swimming hole to swim, which was up off Clarendon Avenue.
Okay.
I mean, where the swimming hole is now, you can't swim in there.
Sure.
They used to dredge. They would get a big steam shovel in there, whatever you want to call it, and dig a 12-foot hole in the river, in the Clarendon River. Yeah. And so that it was available for children to swim there. Yeah.
That's really neat.
It was great. It was great. And so I'll still have kids who are adults now come up to me and say, gee, I remember when I was taking swimming lessons from you back, when I was growing up. And so it's for me, a lot of good memories to have students come up and tell me. And of course, many of them still live in West Rutland. So,
Yeah, you never know what your impact is, right?
for sure.
When you're doing something.
For sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so that to me was the jumping off point for my career. And so I originally wanted to be a phys ed teacher, went to Castleton for that purpose, but they dropped the program for whatever reason my freshman year.
Okay.
And so I had to find an alternative, which was middle school social studies.
Okay.
I liked history,
Yeah.
and so I took that up as my prime subject area. And so when I was a senior, they brought back phys ed. But it was too late then.
It was too late.
Too
Well,
late,
maybe
so.
that was how it was meant to be. You were meant to go in this other direction.
Right,
That you
right.
wouldn't have chosen
Yes.
if the phys ed program had still been there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, my first year at Castleton, I was also asked if I wouldn't coach the West Rutland Babe Ruth team.
Okay.
So I was only 19,
Yeah.
and I was going to be coaching boys that were 13 to 15 years of age. And
Yep.
I was a little concerned that, would they listen to me and that kind of thing.
Right, because you're so close in age, would they
So
have
close
the
in age,
respect? Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And I was told that I wasn't going to have a very good team because a lot of the better players had already, they had turned 16 and they couldn't play.
I see.
And so I had only 3 boys that were 15 and the rest were under that, 14 and 13 years of age. Well, we surprised everyone in the league. We won the league.
Oh my gosh.
And we had maybe 15 teams in the league.
Wow.
And we also won the tournament championship.
Wow.
So we had a spectacular season.
That's amazing. So, right, this just goes to show, I mean, an old adage, you can't judge a book by its cover, right?
Correct.
People were looking at that team and that situation and saying, nah.
Never going to happen.
Never going to happen.
No, but they were so proud that the Rotary put us on the front cover of their yearly calendar.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, it was fabulous.
Oh.
I mean, and my boys, a lot of them still have that original photograph of us. Yeah.
I would think so. I mean, that must have been so thrilling for them, knowing that they were underdogs, really. And
Yes.
to work
Yes.
hard and
Absolutely.
come together as a team. And
Yep. Now, West Rutland had never done much in terms of baseball. I looked back through prior yearbooks, and we never were very strong.
Okay.
In the league and
Yep.
playing against the towns.
Yep.
But that year, we started things off with a group of boys that did end up winning a state championship.
That's amazing.
It was great.
It's amazing.
Good memory there, too.
Yeah.
Right
Proud
on.
moment.
Proud, absolutely.
Yeah. So where was your first teaching job?
Okay, so as a senior,
Yeah.
we had to apply for being a student teacher.
Right. Oh, that's right.
And
Yep.
so it was going to be a 12-week, 13-week, a whole semester actually,
Okay.
of working at a school.
Right.
And so fortunately, I was picked to work at Rutland Town. And they had just built a new building. So they completed it in '68, and I was there in the fall of '69.
Okay.
And so I worked for Mr. Sam Katrupi.
Okay.
He was my student teacher. And so I got my feet wet with him for 6 weeks.
Yep.
And then I was transferred over to the Rutland Middle School to work with Jim Lamy.
Okay.
And I was there with him for 7 weeks to finish out the semester. And so I had really 2 good mentors. And I must have made a really good impression on the faculty at Rutland Town because I was hired in 1970. I was still a senior. I was hired without an interview with the school board.
Wow.
I interviewed with the superintendent, and was given a job.
That's amazing.
Was offered a job.
Yep.
Ann Riley was our principal. She lived in Center Rutland. And so hit it off well with her.
Yeah.
And ended up teaching 5th grade in 1970, 5th grade in the town clerk's office in Rutland town. Yes, well, the town had a development all over the place going on.
Sure.
And the building that was built in 1967 and 8 was at full capacity.
Wow.
Already.
Wow.
So they voted to put an addition on, which was going to include 8 rooms, 8 classrooms. So 4 teachers, 2 4th grade teachers, and I and another 5th grade teacher were sent to Rutland Town, well, to the town clerk's office, where that used to be the Center Rutland School.
Right.
And so that's where we taught for a year until the addition was built.
Wow.
So
I'm sure that was an adventure in itself. Yep.
It was so fun. We didn't have any art or music or phys ed during the week except on Friday morning when a bus would come and all the kids would be transported over to the big school on Post Road.
Yep.
And the 4 of us would then plan what the afternoon was going to be like. The students would return around noon. And so we would have activities planned for them for the afternoon. So it was a lot of fun.
That's
we
great.
Had 4 of us, yeah. And then we ended up in what we call the open wing. In those days, schools, towns were trying to save money. And so the wing was built without walls.
Oh, wow.
So we had partitions where teachers could store their materials and everything, but you could look over the top of those partitions to see the classroom next door.
Wow.
So it was a little noisy. We
I
had
bet.
We had to get used to instructing with other teachers hearing what you were doing.
Right, right.
And so when we returned to that open wing, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grades were two grades apiece. Well, actually, we had so many students that there were 3 classrooms per grade.
My goodness.
So it ended up being 4th, 5th, and 6th. 2 of the 6th grades and 3 5th and 3 4th.
Wow. So we've talked a lot about your teaching, and I know you were also assistant principal there for how many years?
12 years.
For 12 years?
12 years. I worked as the 5th grade teacher for 7.
Okay.
And then our assistant principal decided to move on to Proctor to be principal over there. And so I applied for the assistant principal job and was awarded it. And so I worked there 12 years into 13 maybe, but my 13th year I was already guidance counselor as well. And the reason that it happened was the principal at the time wanted me to also still be in charge of busing and discipline, but that wasn't working very well to be guidance. And
right, you have to have a different relationship with a student when you're trying to help guide them into their future versus the disciplinarian who is
absolutely. So I made the transition the 13th year, well actually we 14th, into full-time guidance. And that's when I introduced, well actually I was doing it when I was assistant principal. I would be visiting classrooms because I felt like my calling was to still instruct students. And so Bob Smolinski was a psychologist working for us. And I ran it by him, gee, what if I did some guidance classes and so forth. So I introduced some puppets into my teaching. I had a lion named Jingles, and I had a skunk named Gadzooks, and a raccoon named Blinky. And Blinky only had one eye, so that was his nickname.
Blinky.
But I was on the floor with the kindergarten students in 1st grade right up through. And we would talk about values and certain behaviors and so forth. So that was even better, was be able to get back in the classroom. And
right. Yeah, interface with
yes,
with the students.
I was
yeah.
so glad to get away from the, I guess it was aggravation, maybe is the word, of busing and
those administrative things that are
discipline.
not necessarily fun for anyone.
It was not fun.
Yeah.
It was not fun.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate. The Rutland Town School Board was very good to me. When I accepted the role as assistant principal, I asked them to please, keep an open ear, I guess, to me deciding not to, continue in that.
Yeah.
Well, Vermont started with introducing the practice of having guidance counselors in the elementary school. And so, again, Bob Smolinski encouraged me to go for that.
Yeah.
And I did.
Yeah.
And so the board accepted that and then allowed me to make a transition from being the assistant principal to be guidance counselor.
That's wonderful.
So it was wonderful. It was great.
Just listening to you, I mean, it's just obvious that you have a genuine care and concern for the people that are around you, whether they're kids that you're coaching or teaching to swim or your fellow colleagues, right, working together to plan the afternoon. And it's, I mean, I know you through church and, kind of just related connections in West Rutland.
Yes.
And, and it's very obvious to see that. So I just want to say thank you for your service to our community.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
And this half-hour show goes so fast, and I feel like I have so many more questions, but we're already getting towards the end of our time. So I want to ask you something that I'm trying to ask each of my guests when they come on. And that is, what is it that you love the most, or maybe there's a couple things that you love the most about living here in Rutland and living in this community, being part of this community in Vermont here?
Well, I feel Rutland is a working man's town. And for sure, the people try to do the best they can with what they have for the children of this community.
Yes.
Yeah, they're very supportive.
Yes.
I'm not just talking Rutland City, I'm talking West Rutland and Proctor, Pittsford, Brandon, the Castle. This whole area is, to me, has a group of people that have the best at the forefront. Yeah. I wish that we had more industry here. I think we would keep more good people here in Rutland. A lot of our, people that could be leaders are leaving to live somewhere else, including my own children.
Yeah.
And so that hurts.
Yeah.
That hurts.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that Vermont, the state of Vermont legislature, can, assist us. I look at Burlington and the Burlington area and how it's burgeoning. And the Rutland area seems to be declining in terms of, what it can offer to young people. And so we just have to keep working hard.
We have to keep working hard, and I think what you said, though, is true, that the people who are here are really dedicated to the community and to one another, and that's a beautiful thing and a thing that we all really should celebrate and appreciate, because that's not true everywhere.
I agree.
So
I agree. Yeah, we're very fortunate to have the people there that doing the best they can.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Stan, thank you so much for
My
coming
pleasure.
on today.
This was fun.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. And thank you all for watching us. And I'll see you next time on Tea and Talk.